How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Today, we're looking at what BlackRock doesn't want you to know. We're actually going to be looking at Whitney Webb, who's a journalist, who is an investigator, author. We're going to be looking at a recent podcast where she talked about this. And a big shout out as well to Jamie Tree, who put this on their YouTube channel. I'm going to clip only part of the video, but really good content over there if you haven't seen it. If you want to trade cryptocurrency, there's a link to Margex underneath the video and a link to CoinW. They have some different airdrops going on right now, so you can get some free tokens. Just hit the join now button, set up an account, and you can start trading. I'm going to split this up into two different parts. One is on BlackRock and what they're trying to do behind the scenes, and then one is on the top news right now. Would make them two different videos, but in a bit of a time crunch, so a lot of information. Stay through to the end. Let's get into it.
So I think the digital ID is a key enabler of the surveillance, knowing what everyone is doing at the transactional level and being able to tweak that micromanagement based on a person's activity, because the digital ID isn't just limited to the financial system, right? It's like your travel, your health history, your career history, your education credentials, your access to telecommunications, social media, the internet. With the new AI era, right, they can fuse all that data, analyze it, and depending on how they develop that AI algorithm, use it to control people really in unprecedented ways. I think the digital ID and the CBDC and its private sector equivalence project is something that we're always sort of intended to be the same system. So there's documents from the UN, from the BIS, and in related groups that are sort of that have been working on this for years, that essentially frame one as essential to the other, using words about, this is inclusionary, the whole, marketing behind digital ID is that everyone needs legal ID because otherwise they're unable to access essential services, right? And so the idea is we all have to be included in the system, and they directly link that to the concept of financial inclusion and banking the unbanked, which he brought up earlier. But inherently, these systems actually function in an exclusionary way based on how they've been set up. They have essentially said that this will be the only way to prove you have legal identity. And so if you don't participate in that system, as far as the state or the private sector is concerned, you don't exist. So by not participating in that system, you're inherently excluded from the economic system and really essentially everything. So you have to onboard to the surveillance state or be excluded from everything. So it's, being marketed as inclusion, but it's really inherently exclusionary.
Totally. So how does this system get triggered? How do we move into the Mark Carney-ism?
Well, I think they sort of give it away when they say that this is the new Bretton Woods movement that needs to be seized. So Bretton Woods was what came out of World War II, essentially, and was the creation of a new financial governance system after World War II. And this is essentially an effort to create a new financial governance system that was announced well before any sort of crisis like that, but it's probably going to need a crisis of that level to be implemented and convince people to onboard at scale. And if you subscribe to the theory that all wars are bankers' wars, which there is plenty of evidence to support that, I would say, that seems to suggest that perhaps, this is it's going to be a problem, reaction, solution type of situation where they've already made the solution. They've already developed what they want to be the new financial governance system after this new Bretton Woods moment. They just need some sort of big event on the scale of World War II or some large event that's, equally disruptive in order to be like, all right, now it's time for a new financial governance system after this big event like they did after World War II.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the thing that's so interesting about this debt bubble exploding is that when you know that the debt bubble is going to explode and you want to explode it into the new system, the way that you sort of trigger that into the system that you want to get the masses to go with you is you actually want to have the most debt obligations on the record, on the board, so that when the system pops, they'll all pop. When the debt bubble pops, every debt bubble will pop. It will be everything all at once. It won't just be like, oh, Japan's fine, the US is it won't work like that. Everything will pop at once. So in this weird way, you actually want to create as much debt as possible right before the pin bursts the bubble. And then you can offer this, hey, we'll service your debt 1-to-1 if you come join this new universal tokenized ledger just sign up here, do a selfie of your face and give us your biometrics. And then here you are.
Well, it seems like in Larry Fink's case in particular, there's a goal, a big ambition there to develop new asset classes that can be used to basically fuel their existing business model and perpetuate it for millennia forward. Mm-hmm. So one of these that I've been writing about for a few years is the whole idea of natural assets. What they call nature's economy. And one of the groups that has been sort of propelling this forward, at least one of the earlier groups, the Intrinsic Exchange Group, which is a product of the Rockefeller Foundation and the multilateral development banking system, has a graphic on their website called The Opportunity. And they show there the existing amount of assets in the world economy, and then show what if we unlock natural assets, how nature's economy, it's like 6 times the amount of existing assets in the economy today. As an asset manager, BlackRock being able to unlock and take control of as many natural assets as possible that aren't currently part of the financial system is obviously a way for them to perpetuate what they do and deepen and expand their control over not just people in the existing financial system, but really over the natural world as well, and essentially turn everything alive into a tradable Wall Street financial product. And the goal, as Fink has stated, is to have all of this on a universal ledger on blockchain.
The global elites, the large investment banks, continue to gain more and more power. I saw this actually today. Blackstone to acquire Ancestry.com for $4.7 billion, giving the investment firm total ownership of all DNA from every person who's ever used the service. Maybe that's where the actual value was all along, right? I mean, some people understood that ahead of time, but that is kind of crazy. And keep in mind, this is a $1 trillion private equity business. That's just part of it, I suppose, Blackstone's private equity business, but it's an alternative investment management company in New York. Keep in mind, BlackRock has also filed with the SEC to launch tokenization funds. They've also, they're not the only ones that are doing this either. Goldman Sachs to launch 3 tokenization products this year. And they've also talked in the past about forcing change. Let me play this video for you.
You now make a point of that's an investment criteria for you.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors. 54% of the incoming class are women. We added 4 more points in terms of diverse employment this year, and what we are doing internally is if you don't achieve these levels of impact, your compensation could be impacted. Okay, we're doing the same.
Okay, so they're forcing change, and keep in mind that this changes. Their goals change, just like they've started to move away from ESG. They can start moving towards other things as well. And I think we often look at BlackRock like they're the savior in crypto because they do pump our bags. They want a significant amount of Bitcoin. I think we've been able to see that. They continue to buy more and more Bitcoin over time, and that's good for the people that have already bought it. Maybe not as good for the people that still need to allocate towards it. Keep that in mind. But it is interesting to see because, they may be moving towards tokenization of everything. Tokenization of your biometric data. Tokenization of natural resources. And it is fascinating. Now, how can you protect yourself in this kind of environment? And to be clear, they're kind of shielding this from you. This is what they're trying to keep away from you, is how this goes. Like, they want control over the asset before it gets away from them. And luckily, they have a lot of capital. Bitcoin was difficult because they had to wait a while to start buying it. But that's most likely why some of the global elites, some of the big bankers say that they don't like Bitcoin, because maybe at that time they're not allowed to allocate towards it. And then once they are, they change their mind, right? It's funny how that happens. So how can you protect yourself against this? Well, you can buy Bitcoin. You can try to gain some of the asset before the large wealthy individuals and companies buy it. I mean, we're already seeing that. We're seeing a land rush on Bitcoin with a bunch of different companies buying it, whether it's a small butcher or whether it is a pharmaceutical company, whether it's a software company, whether it is an ETF. So yeah, they can get their hands on a lot at one time. So getting some allocation before they push it up to extremely expensive levels would probably make sense. Now I guess we should transition into the news part of this video. If you were just here for the first half, that's okay. I would still suggest staying through to the second half because we have some interesting information. Elon posting about dollar devaluation with laser eyes as his PFP after touching down in Tennessee with a Bitcoin conference in Nashville this week. So Elon said, where are we with dollar destruction, you might ask? Okay, going from metal to dollars to weaker dollars to where you have to print $50 trillion on one piece of paper to then bullets. It leads to anarchy as you devalue the currency. It leads to instability. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see Elon post about this, again, right after the PFP change to laser eyes, right as, Trump backs Bitcoin. Trump calls up Elon. Elon endorses Trump and starts donating to a mega PAC, which is going to be paying Trump $45 million a month. Elon puts on laser eyes and then posts about this, bringing up the problem, making it very obvious what the problem is. This is at the same time that he and his companies own over $1 billion, and we don't even know what he holds personally, but just Tesla and SpaceX hold over $1 billion of Bitcoin, just those two. At the same time, when interest rates are being cut overseas, and most likely in the U.S. at some point in the very near future, right? We saw China cut by 0.25% here today. I believe PCE inflation is coming later this week. Let's just check on that. Okay, July 26th, Friday. We're going to see inflation numbers. Tomorrow we have Tesla earnings. And right now, let's just reload this here. We have ETFs looking like they're probably going to have another positive day. 722, the thread, IBIT had nearly $1 billion worth of trading volume, FBTC 300 million, GBTC 200 million, and GBTC started with a 0 day. Typically, when GBTC doesn't sell anything, it's a very positive day. I mean, look at the last 11 consecutive days of inflows. 150, 300, 215, 150, about 80, 310, 300, 420, 53, 37, 425. Again, just a lot of inflows. And I believe we just saw someone buy a little bit of Bitcoin. We had Franklin Templeton, easy BC with 117 Bitcoin. Not the biggest buy, but hey, I'm not going to complain about that. That's about $7 million, $8 million worth of Bitcoin. And we are starting to see some other dominoes drop. Let's actually show this first. The third largest Bitcoin wallet in July so far bought 2,550 Bitcoin, 850, 740 just 3 days ago, buying, like I said, 1,480 Bitcoin, which is about $100 million worth. A lot of people think this is Robinhood. Maybe their corporate Bitcoin account or something like that, their address, because there's not much of an outflow. I mean, there have been a few times where Bitcoins come out. I mean, you can look here, 2,800 Bitcoin, 0.05, 0.02, 0.05 back here. Like barely any Bitcoin has been sold. But yeah, this is interesting to watch. We'll have to continue to monitor this. Obviously, they stacked very hard during the bear market, and now they're adding a bit at a time. Tomorrow, Ethereum ETFs are going to start trading. All systems go. 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, according to Bloomberg. So yeah, this is interesting. Less than about 12 hours away. 14 hours away from the time of this recording. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. What do you think BlackRock's trying to do? Are they trying to manipulate everyone? Are they trying to get their hands on every single asset out there? I think they do try to get more and more control as time goes on. So it'll be interesting to watch. Of course, make sure you insulate yourself. Make sure that you are wise with how you spend money and make sure you're wise where you put money. If you want to trade, like I said at the beginning of the video, there's a link to Margex and to CoinW underneath the video where you can trade cryptocurrencies. Of course, make sure you know what you're doing. I'll see you in the next video.